Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Vegas 41, and there's a chance we lose the main event, which was Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori. There's hope that this fight will still stay together, but even if it stays together, it's still very, very disappointing for me as a fan. This is supposed to be a middleweight fight, 185 pounds, two top contenders in the middleweight division. You have Paulo Costa, who's currently ranked number two, Marvin Vettori, who's currently ranked number five, and this has title implications. I mean, both guys are a little ways away from a title shot, considering Marvin Vettori just come off a loss to Israel Adesanya, and it was his second loss to Israel Adesanya within his career. Paulo Costa is coming off a loss to Israel Adesanya as well, and this was his big return. But, on top of that, now we have the unprofessionalism of Paulo Costa coming in overweight. And he said today's Wednesday, he's supposed to make 185 pounds. Well, technically 186 pounds because you have the 1 pound allowance for non title fights. He said today that he weighs 211 pounds. He is unbelievably 26 pounds away from making weight against Marvin Vettori and making this a legitimate middleweight fight. And that's what sucks, because even if this fight happens now, it will happen at a catch weight. It will be 195 or maybe even light heavyweight 205. And that kind of ruins all the relevance of this fight because it means nothing at 205. If Paulo Costa was to go out there and absolutely brutally KO Marvin Vettori, if it was at 185, that would mean something because, okay, now he's right back in title contention. He's got a big win over a number ranked five guy in the division. But if he beats him at 205, well, what does that even mean? That doesn't mean anything. He doesn't fight within that division. And I think this is just a problem that we have within MMA, and it's a wider issue of guys cutting way too much weight just so they can have a size advantage within a division. Paulo Costa has always been a massive middleweight. I can't believe he even makes the weight. When he made the weight against Israel Adesanya, he looked super drained. And it's just, we've seen guys time and time again drain their bodies to make a certain weight class just so they can have a size advantage over another guy and a strength advantage. And I think it's ridiculous to come in 2 days before you're supposed to make weight and say, you know what, I can't make weight anymore. You signed a contract. At least Marvin Vettori says he'll accept the fight at any weight. He'll fight him at 205 if need be. But really, that sucks for Marvin Vettori. Imagine now Paulo Costa. Marvin Vettori was on track to make the 185-pound limit. Now Paulo Costa comes in much above that, and he's gonna have an advantage because he's not cutting weight. So I don't know. It's just super disappointing to me. One thing I will say, and I don't know if this is a compliment to Paulo Costa or not. And by the way, guys, if you want to see my prediction video for the fight, it's on the channel, and I'll also put it on the end cards, and I'll put the link in the description if you want to check it out. Who do I think is going to win? Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori. But if one thing I can say good about Paulo Costa is I would prefer him to say earlier in the week, I cannot make weight, rather than coming in, massively overweight, trying to get down to the limit, knowing he's not going to get there, and then showing up on the scales at 197 or something like that, and then Marvin Vettori weighs in at 185, and then the commission says, well, this is a massive weight discrepancy. We're not going to let this fight happen anymore. So at least now Marvin Vettori has a chance to maybe taper his weight cut a little bit. Maybe he doesn't cut as much weight now just because he knows he's not going to have to make the 185. So at least I prefer these circumstances. But this is incredibly unprofessional. You sign a contract for a specific weight. Why are you showing up so much heavier? And then on top of that, Paulo Costa has just been so annoying over the past year. So many excuses after getting stopped by Israel Adesanya. Then pulling out of fight after fight. Was supposed to fight Robert Whittaker. Supposedly sick. Okay, I can forgive that. Then Jared Cannonier pulls out for whatever reason. And now this Marvin Vettori fight's in jeopardy. And this was a massive fight, and I'm super excited for it. And it's really the only great fight on the card. I'm not really looking forward to a lot of these fights on UFC Vegas 41. Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori was it. And now it loses its relevancy because it's no longer at the middleweight weight limit. So it doesn't matter within the division. I mean, Paulo Costa has to think about possibly moving up to 205. But honestly, I don't think he's going to have much success there. There's too many killers there. I don't foresee him being a massive threat at 205. So maybe that's why he's not. I mean, look at the division at 205. Yuri Prohaska, Alexander Rakic, Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira. There's just so many killers in 205. Maybe that's where Paulo Costa belongs, but I don't know if he'd have a lot of success. But he clearly can't make weight at 185, and I think he's had issues like this before, with weight cuts and barely making it. but at least, we're not finding out last second that he can't make the limit. And hopefully we still get to see the fight. But again, no matter what, even if the fight happens, and credit to Marvin Vettori for being willing and able to take the fight at any weight class. But now it just loses its importance because it's not in the division that both guys fight in. And let me just say this one last thing before I end the video. If Marvin Vettori does end up fighting him at 195 or 205, Marvin Vettori needs to get a bump in pay. This is essentially a weight miss. And I said the same thing, and I'm going to be consistent throughout. What I said the same thing about Nick Diaz. What he did was incredibly unprofessional, and Robbie Lawler should have get a pay bump just because Nick Diaz showed up and all of a sudden, well, now I want to make it at 185 instead of 170. Their opponent, who was on track to make that weight, is now at a disadvantage, and they should be compensated accordingly. So hopefully Marvin Vettori accepts the fight, 195 or 205, and hopefully he gets a bump in pay. And the other thing is, why is Costa missing this weight? He didn't give a reason. They asked him, he didn't give a reason. Is there an injury going on? Now you got me wondering, what could have possibly happened that he's coming in 26 pounds overweight 48 hours before he's supposed to weigh in and 72 hours before the fight. That's just incredibly ridiculous. Again, who knows? Check out my prediction video for this fight. I would greatly appreciate it. It's in the description, and I'll also have it on the end card. Make sure to like the video if you guys enjoy these videos, and I'll see you in the next video.